Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are so excited to have you join us this evening. Now, I've got some housekeeping matters to take care of because that does not look like Granville O'Neill. That does look like Chester Owens, who's over there looking and seeing what he can see, but that's Chester, but that's not Granny. And on behalf of our Sumner Alumni Association president, Mr. Michael Hobson, I welcome you. He was going to join us, and if he does come in, I'll just let him speak for a few minutes. But let me just introduce the not Granville individual. This is Felicia Smith Safir. And at the very last minute, we had to find someone to sit in. I'm just going to ask all of those that believe in God to please be in prayer for the O'Neill family. There, some things happened very unexpectedly, and I'm just not at liberty to say, but I just want you to be in prayer for him. He would have been here, could he have been? So, with that and no further ado, we have Felicia. Felicia's in the class of 1972. Yay,
Yeah,
70.
right.
Yay, 70. And we have Mr. Chester Owens. And what can we say about him? Class of 1950, but our Kansas City, Kansas, and Sumner High School historian. Welcome to both of you. Mr. Owens, I'm going to let you have it and let us hear a little bit about you.
Okay, I graduated 1949.
Ooh, wrong year. Okay.
Okay. Um, I'm a 1949 graduate of Sumner High School, and I also attended uh, Sumner Junior College, which is located in Sumner High School. Uh, I had, I guess, one of the large families at Sumner High School. There were ones who graduated from 1947 to 1966. All right.
Okay. So the Owens family was pretty big family. And okay, let's hear about Miss Felicia. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, good evening. Um, I am a 1972 graduate, and my family starts from 1939 with my mother, and it goes all the way through 1974. Seven of us attended and graduated from the great almighty Sumner High School.
Okay. And I'm a 1973 graduate, and I can say that my mom graduated in 1940. So she knew Felicia's mother well. And I graduated again in 1973. And again, my name is Jerry Ann Hopkins, and I'm going to be your commentator for tonight. Further along in my housekeeping moments, you can ask questions. The questions will show up on the screen. And so we encourage you that if you hear something or you want to say something or you want us to know something, go ahead and write it in the comments. And we will address them as fast as we can. We are so excited about tonight. This is yet a first. This is going to be a part of, I keep wanting to say a chew and chat, but there's no chewing around here. But there'll be lots of chatting. And next month on March 25th, I got the permission today. We will be looking at the women that graduated from Sumner High School during Women's History Month. So just hold on. We are just moving on up and doing some exciting things. But our most important part is we want the story of Sumner High School to continue to go forth, to continue to be told, to be continued to be talked about. And so with that, Chester, how did we come about? What is it about Sumner High School that we started? And how did we start and why did we start?
Well, we really missed Granville right now. He does such an excellent job in telling how Sumner came into being. So I'll fill in. Uh, in April 12th, 1904, well, first there was only one high school in Kansas City, Kansas, which was located on 9th in Minnesota. And everyone in Kansas City, Kansas high school attended that one high school, which was totally integrated. On April 12th, 1904, there were a group of white males that were going to, some say practice track, some say practice baseball, but they were in Kerr Park. There was a pond in Kerr Park, and there happened to be a young African American by the name of Louis Gregory, and he was shooting bullfrogs. Louis Gregory was not a student of any school. He did not attend school, and he had a limp. There are many stories that have been told as to exactly what happened, and Granville and I agree on the one that Mr. Orton Murray used to tell. But according to Louis Gregory, uh, he was accosted and became frightened because he felt that they were going to do something with him. So he shot, he ran and got his rifle that he used to shoot bullfrogs and killed Roy Martin. Roy Martin was a very popular student at the high school. And so the he was arrested, taken to jail, which at that time was located right on the corner of 17th State Avenue. And there were a mob again together. And this is 1904. And I remember what it was like. There were lynchings going on all over the country. And there were a group of African Americans who had served in the Spanish American War. And when they were discharged, they were allowed to purchase their Springfield rifles. And so Reverend, the pastor of Pleasant Green Baptist Church, assembled them in front of the jail. And according to the story that Mr. Murray used to tell, was that he drew a line and said that anybody who crosses this line tonight will wake up in hell in the morning. So the mob dispersed. Uh, Gregory went to trial. His trial was held in June of 1904. That's about 4 months after he was charged. He was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. But he only served about 15 years and was released. The day after the incident occurred, uh, the African American students attempted to go back into school, and they were not allowed to enter the school by the students and also some of the white citizens. So the superintendent of school, Mr. Pearson, uh, just ceased school for the rest of that school year. And it did not begin until the fall of 1904. When school opened up, the white students attended school from 8 in the morning until 1. The black students attended from 1 to 5. The school was named Manual Training School. Uh, there were some African Americans who felt that this was not uh, a proper name, and so they gathered along with the superintendent and came up with the name after looking at many names: Douglas, Lincoln, and there were schools already in Kansas City, Kansas with those names. And so they chose the name of Sumner, which was named after Senator Charles Sumner, who was an abolitionist from Massachusetts. Senator Sumner in the Senate was speaking, and there was a Southern senator by the name of Preston Brooks, struck him with his cane and knocked him down his steps, and he never fully recovered, but was named after one of the great abolitionists of his time. Uh, the citizens felt, and their controversy on this as to whether or not the African Americans want the schools segregated or not, but they went to the state legislature and they had to amend the general statutes to create Sumner High School. So when they amended the statutes, which was termed the segregation bill, Sumner became the only all-black high school in the state of Kansas. And that's how we were created. The uh, governor of Kansas, Governor Hodge, felt that this was unfair, that they were mistreating uh, all the citizens, and not all the legislators were in favor of the segregation bill. So he said, "Now I will not. I could be told it's a bill, but I'm not going to do it since the people of Kansas City, Kansas, wanted this to happen." And so he said, "I will be only two stipulation." And it's very interesting when you do the historical research. It only states one. And that is he said the new school that you built for Sumner be of the same quality that the school at 9th in Minnesota. The second was that you pay the black teachers the same salary as you pay the white teachers. This was a real change because across America during that time in 1904, very few of the school districts paid the black teachers the same as white teachers. So Sumner High School became a school where you got equal pay. So at that time, teachers were the top of the line profession, and there were African Americans graduating from particularly the Ivy League schools, University of Minnesota, and those schools. And once they graduated, where did they want to come? They wanted to come to Kansas City, Kansas. So we wound up with the best quality of teachers that you could find. For example, last week, and I think Ms. Hopkins was on the call, with a Zoom call I'm just using this as one of the examples of Scotty Promise Davis, who was a first African American who graduated from the University of Minnesota. When she graduated from there, she went to Harvard and received a master's degree. We had a very fruitful discussion on that. But Miss Davis, when she finished, received a master's degree from Harvard, she came to Sumner High School and was one of the early teachers and is a legend for some of us who graduated probably before she retired in 1951. So
Oh,
I think that's
well, that's a
how we
lot of
had to be.
history. That's a lot of history right there in that little moment. And I hope that you all are jotting things down and so that you'll remember in case it comes up in a history test one day that we started in behind somebody killing somebody. Most interesting, but that governor seemed to have been very uh, racially minded. Bad word, but let me think. I'm trying to think of what I want to say. He was open minded, and hey, making everybody equally paid was a really good thing. So we're gonna flip the script, and how we're flipping the script is, hey, Felicia, how did Sumner end?
Well, Sumner ended it on a high note. There's no question about it. Um, as we traveled through the 60s, there were outstanding athletic programs where they took state. The track team, the track relay team always took regionals, and they never came in anything less than third place at the state level. And there were 1969, the basketball team took the entire state tournament, and Leonard Gray was there, and he became a pro basketball player. So in sports, we continue to just expand, and in other areas, I can think of someone, Sandra Wing, and Jessica Coleman. Uh, wrote a book about Bessie Coleman. I mean, Sandra wrote this book on Bessie Coleman, and it's now part of the Smithsonian. And she's also an aviation administrator. I mean, I could just go through Paul Graham, pro basketball coach, uh, Stephen Henderson is an actor, famous actor, has been in Fences. I mean, the summer just continued. The amount, one class, I know one class very well that had two doctors, Bertram Carruthers and Herman Watson, out of the same class. Craig James Lindsay, out of 72, um, is over the science department at Howard University. He's one of the most outstanding physicists in the entire world. Nothing goes up in space that doesn't have something that James has his name on it. And as we go into science, our students were constantly, I mean, always winning the science fairs. And teams didn't even want to play us in chess, because chess, it was just, students were outside playing chess, cafeteria playing chess, all over the building. And those were excellent skills, because it wasn't just a game, because chess was math. And you had to think far enough in advance. But then the music program under Leon Brady, of course, outstanding. Um, in 1969 over to 70, we went to the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. There had
You
been
telling
no.
a whole bunch. Hold on, I'm gonna stop you now. I'm gonna stop you because you told a lot right there, and I need for you to roll it back up because we're gonna come probably back to it. But that was a well done prelude to how Sumner ended and how it ended on a good note. And I've never felt that. But at this time, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to come back to how Sumner ended the other way. And but please bring in our president and for just a hello. And I would like to thank our manager. Okay, I'm sorry, he's gone. So, without leaving, so Chester, you can hit in here because I was away at school. The rumor hit that Sumner was closing. They had already closed Northeast Junior High School, and there was, the first thing you think of, well, what's wrong with the building? Well, there wasn't anything wrong with the building. The building looked just like the building on 18th and Parallel Parkway called Northwest Junior High School. So that wasn't it. And it was the beginning of the answer to their doing integration in schools. Now, if you think about it, here's Mike now. I'll put a paper clip here. And Mr. Hobson, if you could turn for a second, there you go. I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Hello.
Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry my office had me detained. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. I am so sorry. I have actually been on, but my office was calling. But I just want to welcome everybody and say thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be on. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to share some of the rich history of Sumner High School. And I'm just honored that we have our two great persons on here to tell some of the story. I would be remiss if I didn't say, we are actually always want to make sure we grow Sumner High School Alumni Association. So tell your friends who went to Sumner, tell your sisters and brothers and nephews and nieces and cousins that we are here and we are trying to educate not just our own members, but the community and Kansas City about the rich history of Sumner High School. Mr. Owens has just been so enlightening for me and Mr. Granville. And, we want to take a second just to pause and, make sure we lift up prayers for Mr. Granville and his family. They've had some tragic losses in his family within the last 24 hours. So we want to just make sure that we keep him and his family lifted up in prayer. But we just want to say thank you for everybody that's on tonight. And just make sure you're taking notes tonight, because we don't know if we'll get this history back as far as being able to be repeated This is being recorded, and so we want to make sure that this history is continues to spread. We are actually in conjunction with Sumner Academy and meeting with them to continue to further to mend the wounds of Sumner High School and Sumner Academy. I was there the night that they ripped up Sumner High School emblem out of the floor when you first walk in the entrance of Sumner High School. I was there and I saw it. And it still rips my guts out when I saw it, because they did it on purpose. You know, Dr. O.L. Plucker and his regime did it on purpose. It was between classes, and they did it so we would see it. But the regime that was in power at that point is no longer there. And the principal and the staff and those that are at Sumner Academy now want to make sure that Sumner High School's name continues to resonate in Sumner Academy, and to also continue to educate the students that are in that building. So also, those of you that want to become a part of Sumner High School Alumni Association, it's not too late. We want to make sure we put in the chat, and Miss Jerry Ann will send out we'll talk about the information about joining Sumner High School Alumni Association, to be a member in good standing and to continue to support the efforts of Sumner High School. So with that, that's all the words I'm gonna say. We want to make sure we leave the time to our two great persons who are on here that is given the history of Sumner High School. And we will continue to do this at least once a quarter. The happy hour is once a quarter, and then we'll have our meeting, our general meeting. But make sure you pay your dues, and make sure we want to grow the organization. Don't forget the convention that's coming up in October, and there'll be more to come. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you were able to come, and hope you can sit and enjoy the rest of our history moment about Sumner High School.
I am. Thank you.
All righty. Thanks again. And he brings us to a good point. O.L. Plucker, don't want to spend much time on that gentleman, but he
Amen.
is responsible for Chester. Go ahead, tell us. O.L. Plucker. Tell me about Mr. Plucker. What did he do?
Well, I think it's hard to describe my feelings for him. So it's probably best that I be quiet.
Okay.
And Felicia probably talked when the classic example is when Sumner wanted to go to Paris. And I know one of the persons on the Best Kept Secret said that the school board set the policy, but we all knew the Plucker ran the school board. They did whatever he told them to do. And what they did, what he attempted to do to the Sumner band that went to Paris was really unconscionable. And what he did to Leon Brady when they came back from Paris is unconscionable. I do not carry hate to anybody. My spiritual beliefs would not allow me to do that. So I'll just leave him alone. If there's anybody in the world that I would come to say hate, it would be O.L. Plucker.
Okay. Well, you know, he said he made a statement in the documentary The Best Kept Secret, and he talked about the so-called Black community. And those were his exact words. And then he went on to say that the Black church in Sumner High School were interchangeable. And if you look at that being so, he didn't think very much about Sumner High School nor the Black church. So, or the Black community for that matter, because a ripple went across our community. And I always take this opportunity to say, no school that I attended exists anymore. So there's no Keeling Elementary. There's no Stowe Elementary. There's no Northeast Junior High School. And last but not least, they closed Sumner in 1978. And even though I'm giving him 5 minutes of our time because he did some awful things. He did some awful things. Go ahead, Felicia.
O.L. Plucker was probably one of the most racist people in education. I can tell you that even when we were in school, he did not sanction any trips for the music program. At one point, we were on our way to a jazz festival competition, and he canceled our buses. And the churches and Turner House sent vans to take us because he had canceled our buses, our transportation. He actually had made a rule after I graduated that the band could no longer travel. They could not travel. And that was going after Leon Brady. He did not want the marching band or the jazz band to travel. The school board did not approve of our trip to Paris. They would not assist us in any way or form. The community funded the entire trip. And if it was not for the churches, it's no way we could have gone. The churches raised money. They had dinners. They did everything they possibly could do. And that was the churches of all through the Northeast area is what they did. And then Bob Dole actually stepped in and said that whatever money we weren't able to come up with, they would come up with more. And any students who were on public assistance, he would make sure, and they did, make sure that they had money to spend when they were on that trip. When we won the jazz festival, and we won an international jazz festival, and these were people from all over the world playing. And these were kids, and they were high school and college as the competition. They were, most of them were from affluent families. Even their instruments were beyond what we had. We had rubber bands on some of our instruments holding them together. I kid you not. We did. Jenkins jumped in at the end of the moment to try to help repair some of the instruments we had because we did not have any professional instruments. We had instruments that our parents could afford. And many of them had come from pawn shops. But we went into that competition with everything we had. And we took it. And we won it. And we won an international competition from people all over the world competing against us. And they could not take us down in any way or form. When they sent the trophy to Kansas City, and it was a trophy for Kansas City, and it was also a personal trophy of mine, because I was selected as the saxophonist, and I was the only girl. I like to throw that in too. They sent them to Kansas City, and mine was in the trophy case at Sumner. Plucker refused to accept the trophy and sent it back to Paris, refused to accept it. Sumner never got their trophy from Paris, France. Mine was in the trophy case. And when they shut down Sumner and threw everything in the trash, and Chester Owens and several of his friends came out to try to retrieve as many of the trophies as they could, many of them were broken into pieces because they told them to break them up. They wanted no trace. And that was Plucker's order. No trace of anything that had to do with Sumner High School. And that was another reason they changed not just the name, but they changed the mascot to get rid of anything that had to do with us. Now, you can't be any more racist than that.
Your story is pretty interesting, and it has a lot. I'm sure that a lot of our listeners have never heard about the Paris trip, and that happened in 1972. And on that trip, I know about it because we did collect a lot of papers and whatever else we could do to get them to Paris. It was a group effort. It was a community effort.
Yes.
And look at what they did. Look at what they did. They won. Did you all know that? That's a question mark for you. Did you know the Sumner's Jazz Band went to Paris in 1972 and won the Jazz Festival? Now, I'm going to go ahead and point it out. What are you holding, Felicia? Before I get back to Chester, what are you holding? What is all that you wanted me to ask you about?
Okay, this is the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, okay.
This is my practice room. So this, of course, my saxophone is always here.
Okay.
Yes, I still play, and I still teach music.
Okay. All right. I mean, you've been holding it a while, so I thought I'd give you an opportunity.
I don't even notice it. I don't even notice it.
It's a part of you. Is that what you want me to know?
It is a part of me.
Okay, so what a blessing it was. What a blessing it is for you to be here to tell us firsthand what happened when getting to Paris and winning in Paris and what happened once we got home. But Mr. Owens, I'm going to change the dynamics a little bit. And let's talk about some famous Sumnerites that have, I went on and put together a Jeopardy square for us. And so if I were to ask you some famous teachers at Sumner High School, well, who would you say? Who would you share? Felicia, get ready. Who would you say, give us some famous, besides Scotty P. Davis? We kind of went over her. Anyone else that you can remember that impacted you?
Are you asking anyone in the audience?
I'm asking Chester Owens.
Oh, for me, it was Paul Mobley.
Oh.
Mr. Mobley was a chemistry teacher and also taught college courses in junior college. He was the coach of the basketball team, and I made the basketball team in junior college. The other was Edna Hoffman, who was an English teacher, a great teacher. And the one, George Green, and she later married after she retired, George Green Shelby. Those were probably my three, and I'm sorry, Mr. Bradford, who taught machine shop. Those were my three favorite teachers, but Mr. Mobley was my favorite teacher.
And I can say that I knew Mr. Mobley in his later years, and he was just a wonderful, wonderful gentleman and really very kind to his wife. And whatever she said and whatever she needed, Mr. Mobley was there. And at that time, he was chair of the deacon board of First Baptist, but he was dutiful and loving to his wife and son and grandson. And so, Felicia, it's your turn to tell me about your favorite teachers.
Well, I want to tell you, Mr. Thatcher was one of my favorite teachers.
Really? Big Jim Thatcher? All right.
Thatcher. One of the things that, and he was a family friend, and of course, everyone knows the history of their business in Kansas City. But he had been one of the best football coaches that Sumner had also for years. And Mr. Thatcher would come to every single event that Sumner had. I don't care what it was, he would be there. But the other thing, he knew so much history about Kansas City that you could sit and talk to him. And he would also teach you how to test. And it would be crazy. He could teach you how to take standardized tests so that you would always have high scores. And I just loved that. And of course, Mr. Brady. I mean, Mr. Brady was an internationally known musician. He had played all over the world. He was uh Ray Charles's drummer. He was his percussionist for years. And so we were lucky to have that, because anytime a professional musician came in town, they would come to Sumner and do workshops with the jazz band. And if they were here for 2 or 3 days, we would have them. And I mean, people like uh Cannonball Adderley, Frank West, Yusef Lateef. Ray Charles actually came before, and these people were coming through. And our students didn't have the money to take private lessons, but we were getting taught by one of the best musicians in the world, and he is on the National Walk of Fame, International Walk of Fame of Jazz. He is the only teacher on there, the only teacher, and that's Leon Brady. And he was not only was he a good teacher, but he was a good disciplinarian. And the other thing was that most of the students who were in the music program, whether it was the marching band or whether it was the jazz band, were males. And a lot of them did not have males at home with them. So you had male teachers at the school that acted in that role. And they were able to help young men become men because they were men and they were real men.
Well, interesting that you said he was disciplined. It is just interesting that you said he was disciplined. We got a comment here from Ollie Carroll, who's from the class of 73. She said that for her favorite teachers were Mrs. Melba Hall and Gloria Johnson were two of her favorites. So we're, putting some names out into the atmosphere that are the Sumner story. But when you talk, I'm going to go back to Brady being disciplined. How about when we had to run the track, when we didn't do something right? He would say, "Give me one," which was 1 lap, two laps, or four laps. So when things didn't go well for the marching band, then we were running laps. Now, I was in the drill team, but I was part of the band, so I was running laps like the best of us. So let's kind of change the trajectory for a minute. And thank you, Ruby. I saw that you concurred with your classmate, Ollie. I'm trying not to say who my favorites are because I might get beat up later, because they're still here in this world, thank God. I had in my list also Gloria Johnson, John Rice, Felton Denham, Leon Brady, Scotty P. Davis, Rebecca Bloodworth. Oh, I didn't say that right. Rebecca Bloodworth and Rostel Mansfield. But I'm going to roll it back again. And there is a famous band director. There's a famous band director that came out of Sumner, and I need for his story to come forth. Can you share?
Which band?
Were you referring to me?
Sure.
Pardon?
Dr. Foster.
Dr. William P. Foster?
That's right.
Yes.
And can you give me the story of him, Mr. Chester? And I saw your comments. Thank you.
Dr. Foster was probably one of the many international persons we have, a graduate from Sumner High School. He was known throughout this country as America's bandmaster. That's the title that he earned. He graduated from the University of Kansas in 1941.
That's right.
The book that he wrote, The Man Behind the Baton, I would suggest that you get the book and read it. He was told when he graduated, the last week or so of school, he went to his advisor and he said, what are you going to do, Foster? He said, well, I'm going to be a band director. He said, there's no place for band directors. So his first job was at Springfield, Missouri. From there to a college in Georgia. From there to Tuskegee. And from there to Florida A&M, where he found the band was in jumbles. He took that band and turned it into the top band in this country. He received his master's degree and also a PhD. If you can see, this book is called Band Pageantry. This was his master's thesis that he earned from Columbia University. At one time, probably up to the last 15 years, every major band in America used band pageantry to train their bands. One of the highlights of his career was that in 1987, France was having their what's equivalent to our 4th of July. It's called a Bastille Day. So he received a call directly from the person who handled all the music and parades. So we want you to come and head all of the music in the country of France. Said, I can't do it. You got to call the college, and then you got to call the State Department. Well, they agreed. He said, well, then I'll come on if you let me bring my band. And he took his band, which cost $500,000. That day was seen by millions of people all over the world. And we have a book, a magazine that happened right after that for Willis Scott, and some of you may remember when he was on the Today Show. And the cover was Foster that says that Paris will never be the same. He also was winner of the Sutler Trophy, and that's the highest award that a college band can receive. Florida A&M was the third recipient of that trophy. He also became the president of the National Band Directors, and they were allowed to have the first meeting wherever they wanted. And he asked that it be held at the University of Kansas. And the professor who told him that, even though it was many years later, was alive. And he asked him to be present. His story is one of the most amazing stories that you can find from Sumner High School.
So let me ask you where did he graduate from?
I'm sorry?
High school. Where did he graduate from?
Sumner.
He graduated from Sumner High School.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
He lived right across the street.
He lived right across
Northeast Junior High School.
Oh, untrue.
He and Josephine Boone Vannevar were good friends. They communicated constantly. When his wife died, he sent her a lot of material. Miss Boone, Vannevar Boone, passed his information on to me. I have a stack of stuff, letters and pictures and everything. But he's one of the amazing. So he also became. McDonald had a band, and he was the director of the McDonald's band in addition to his duties for a number of years. That's one of the most amazing stories of Sumner High School is William Patrick Foster.
I want to jump there because he never, whenever he came back to Kansas City, and he would come back often, and he was really good friends of, my mother and him went to Sumner together. And his nieces and nephews all went to Sumner with my brothers and sisters. He actually was the one that started me on clarinet. I actually got my first clarinet from him. And he would give me lessons whenever he was in Kansas City. And the other thing he did was he invented the fiberglass sousaphones, those white sousaphones that you see all the bands playing now. They originally were brass. And those things weigh about 100 pounds if they're brass. It's too heavy to carry, and they couldn't twirl them and dance with them. So he was the one that worked with the company to invent those white sousaphones. Not only that, but he added white fiberglass clarinets to his band. And they were the top band. There's no question about, but he always would let everyone know that he was a Sumner graduate.
I like these stories. I really do, because that was one that kind of escaped me. So I was happy to hear about him. Now, one of the richnesses about Sumner, that's a new word, richnesses. Someone is asking what the name of the book again is about William, that was written by William Foster. So could you share that, please?
The Man Behind the Baton.
The
Yep.
Man Behind the Baton by William Foster.
That's correct.
And you can still get that. I do want to point out that we have our own. Chester came out with the book that that was written. He had the manual right there for us, and I just want you to know that he has a whole house full of Sumner history and Kansas City, Kansas history, for that matter. History. This gentleman is the man, and we are so honored to have him today. I was just tickled when he pulled out the thing on William Foster. You know, it's just amazing. You amaze me, Mr. Chester Owens. You just simply amaze me. Just amaze me. So I'm going to change the fabric a little bit, because Sumner High School was made up of families. It was made up of good teachers, administrators, but who came to the front door were the families. They were the fabric that brought it all together. And so I'm going to kind of do students and or families. And one of the things that I noted, that there were some large families. So I'm going to back up and I'm going to let you all talk about these large families that came through Sumner High School. I'm sorry for having to do that. Any conversations? Anybody know any names of any? And if you're on the chat, you can throw out some names of families that were huge, that were prominent, that went on to do things. This could be a show and tell at this point. So I'm going to start with you, Chester. You want to name a couple of 3, 4 families that were large?
Well, first, my family, that was 8. But the largest family that I know was the Heron family.
The Heron family,
The
okay.
Heron family. A joke was told in geometry class. We were discussing square roots, and George Green Shelby, who taught arts and crafts and geometry. And so someone said, well, how do you find the square root of Kansas City? He said, well, take the Heron family and multiply them by 12. But that was a joke. But that was a large family. That was, I think, about 12 in
It
that
was
family.
12.
I think it was the largest family that I knew of at Sumner.
Okay, it was 12. I absolutely do know that, because the Smith family, not that I was putting not the Smith family that belongs to Felicia, but the Smith family that belongs to me. My grandparents had 15, and 11 of them lived to adulthood, and most of them attended Sumner. So along with the Herons, so it was kind of like a competition of the Smith and the Herons. So I knew the Herons. I knew Bill and Maurice and dot. So the Herons. You got any more on your list, Mr. Chester?
The Jones family. Some of you probably know. I think the recording secretary of the Alumni Association, the Jones family. I think there were probably 8 or 10 of them that all went to
Okay, of that immediate family. So that was
Yes,
George
that was a large family.
That was a family. That was the George Jones family. And I'm hoping that I got it right, because somebody in that family should be typing and tell me, oh no, it's the other one. Okay, Miss Felicia, tell me who you know. And my husband is in the background saying, there she goes, begetting. So I already hear him somewhere. So Felicia, will you go ahead and tap into my story?
The McIntosh family.
The McIntyre. Those are your neighbors right across the
Right
street.
across the street.
Okay, so there were 8 of you and about 10 of them.
About at least 10.
At least 10 of them.
And all their cousins went to Sumner.
Okay, all right. Any other families that were large and we said the Owens, the McIntoshes, the Theories. The Theories were known for their beautiful daughters, and there was one son. So don't let the one son not be heard if he's out there. So there was the Theories family. Remember, and the interesting thing is, and my husband tells this story, that it's hard to go, oh, there's somebody that said the Carroll family, and there were 10 of them. There were 10 Carrolls. So thank you, Ollie, for reminding me of that. The Pitchland family said the Wyatt.
I can't hear you.
Shannon
something
family.
here.
Did something happen to am I good? Can you hear me? Okay, something happened to my sound. Okay, give me a second. Let me know when you can hear me again, because it looks like the screen is there. So it says the Wyatt Shannon family. There were 10 of them. Andrea Smith says there were 12 McIntoshes. And Felicia is still looking like she can't hear me, and so is Chester. They're saying they can hear me, so it's just my co-folks that can't hear me. Thank you, Thomas. I thank you for telling me that you can hear me. We can hear me, but Chester, I can't hear Chester and Felicia. Chester, can you hear?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, all right, then it's just Felicia. Felicia, work on your sound. I can't call you and tell you since I know what you're using. But thank you, Andrea, for clarifying the number of McIntoshes there were. And the interesting thing is, as I work for the Alumni Association, there are names of family members that go all the way through to 78. And it's just amazing to me that these families are so big, and they existed. So Felicia, you back? Can you hear now?
Yep. I couldn't hear anything you were saying, so I had to do some setting.
So your sister chimed in and said there were 12 McIntoshes. Okay. So we didn't have the right number. So she said it again. She wants you to know 12 McIntoshes. All right. Thank you, Andrea. Let's look at the student and the parents that went to Sumner. And I know we talked about this last night, but Dr. Bertram Carruthers, Dr. Bertram Carruthers Jr., I'm thinking, and Dr. Patricia Carruthers. Those were the Dr. Carruthers family. Any other families that we want to talk about that you know?
Are you in the medical field? Is that where you are now?
Well, not necessarily the medical, just families that that have succeeded, I guess I would say. Also, I have in Felicia said something about James Lindsay, but she didn't say anything about Tony Peeler. And there were 6 of them, by the way. Yes. And Tony went on to be a PhD and an MD. And she is over the elder program, because I'm not going to embarrass myself with the name of the program, at the University of Georgia. She just got that position. She specializes in senior citizens. And I want to say gerontology is the word. I believe I did it right. And Tony graduated in 1972. I'm I'm going to jump down for a second, and I'm going to go back to Paul Graham because Felicia said it, but there's a first about him, and of course I have it written down, and who knows where it's written. So forgive me, Cheryl, because we had to overcome and move and all that before we were finished. But Paul Graham was the first coach from a Division I school, Pac-10, as I remember it. He was the first African American. He graduated from Sumner High School, and we believe that in the history notes, he's the only Black coach that coached a college, a university. Pac-10, Washington State University, Paul Graham, and he is a member of the 1969 basketball team that was one, undefeated, and two, won Kansas State finals. And so I hope for all of those people that want me to say that and acknowledge it, I have now done so. And on that team was Hughie, which was Leonard Gray, Paul Graham, Zachary Townsend. I want to say Leonard Smith, but that's not the name, but his last name was Smith, the starting five. And I'm sorry if I didn't get your name right, but someone will correct me and school me in the morning, I'm sure. The Verser family. Okay, so Beverly Moore has said Neil Weaver Jr., founder of Neil Weaver Estates, attended Sumner and KU with Pat Foster. I am a member of the class of 1962. Mother was Margaret Robinson Weaver, was one class behind Neil. Well, thank you for that information. That's really like what we were looking for, for you all to say some things to us. So we appreciate that history moment. Any other conversations that you want to bring up?
Well, in sports.
Oh, good. That's a good one.
A challenge that I would like to offer for some of the people on here. There are so many Sumner graduates that are in their college halls of fame. And someone should take the initiative, I think, to do that. At the last meeting we had, Dr. Bonner read page 168 of the Sumner story, and I'd like to read it again.
Okay.
And I think someone needs to take that challenge, and it says, the next chapter, this was not intended to be the last story. It says, again, this is no way for the writing team to have included all of the personal accounts that some alumni have shared, nor noted every significant event that has transpired over 73 years. However, we recognize and honor the fact that every alumnus has a story, a personal chapter that deserves to be told. For this reason, we have included this final section of the book, My Recollection of Sumner High School. Space reserved for interested alumni to write their individual memories of people and events of personal significance. In so doing, family, friends, and pageantry will have the benefit of experiencing. And I just read part of that to say, in doing studies and research, we can go back, probably at least I can, until the 60s, but there's not a lot that I know about the 70s. This book was intended for to be continued, so I'm challenging people to write your story and let it wind up in the alumni room. But back to sports.
Oh, before you do that, hold 1 second. It's 8 o'clock, and we have to do a station identification moment. We used to hear it right at that time. So at 8 o'clock, we want to thank Dignified Television. Kamisha Tyner is the owner for allowing us to share our spot this evening. Dignified Television is how you got on tonight. She encourages you to visit the site see what she's up to. And then last but not least, there is a link to the best kept secret, and it's the Sumner story again. And you might see three of the people that you see in front of you in Sumner High School, the best kept secret. It is available on Amazon. And so that is my station identification moment. That was the commercial. Thank you again, Miss Kamisha Tyner with Dignified Television, for allowing us to be on your TV station. Sports, Chester, it's your turn.
Well, this is a challenge that I'm offering to some of the people who are interested in sports, because there's some, and I'm only talking about some who played professional or in halls of fame, because we talked about John McLendon previously. Uh, James Jones, you remember J.J. Jones, a class of 62, which had quite a football team, uh, went to school in Texas. He tried out for the Philadelphia when professional team when they were at the Heights. I have pictures of him. He didn't play long, but he did was outstanding in college. Uh, Harold Hunter, which we talked about, the first black to sign a contract in the NBA, and also the first coach of a women's Olympic team from America. Richard Miller, who succeeded John McLendon at Tennessee State, quite a coach, won many tournaments in Hall of Fame. He's honored there at Tennessee State. Ronald Hamilton, graduated in 1954, who was the captain of John McLendon's team his senior year on the book that was written about John McLendon. He's pictured on the cover. He's the captain. He's holding the team. He was the captain of that team. He followed McLendon and played in the old ABA. Of course, we mentioned Hughie, Ernie Moore, who's still alive, who's in the Hall of Fame down in Wichita State. Uh, Daryl Garrison, who's in the Hall of Fame at some college down in Missouri. Marietta Fine, tennis, female, she's in the Heart of America Hall of Fame, and we think she is in the National Tennis Hall of Fame. Bill Olds, who played professional football, I think, with the New York Giants. Uh, I graduated in 49. There was a person named Oliver Brown. People would have bet that Oliver Brown would not have graduated from high school. He went on to Texas Southern, finished, became a coach of a high school in Houston, and he has sent 3 players to the NFL, which one of them was Singletary, who not only was in the NFL Hall of Fame, but coached, I think, the Chicago Bears. He also became coach of a track team and was assistant coach of the American Olympic team 2 times. I consider Oliver the greatest success in my class. Uh, these are just some of the people you mentioned, Paul Graham, and there was another fellow that was coached down in Pittsburgh. I can't think of his name.
Dennis Hill.
Dennis Hill.
Dennis Hill.
These are just some that I know. There are many more that are in halls of fame at these colleges. And stories need to be written about, in my opinion, about all of these men and women.
Okay, so again, I have to ask that question. They went to what high school?
Who?
Where did those people go to high school?
I went to Sumner. These all
They
Sumner
went
graduates.
to Sumner High School. You know, we used to sing that song about the great name of Sumner High School, and that we would go ahead.
One other I forgot was Richard Tyson. Richard Tyson, and there's a picture in the alumni room of his father who played on the Sumner team of 1933, along with Otis Burdett. Richard went to Independence Junior College, made All-American Junior College, went on to Tulsa, was the first African-American to play at the University of Tulsa, went on and played with the Rams, played in 3 professional football teams. And of course, we talked about David Versa last time, but But Richard Tyson is one of the persons that we really need to take a look at. He did so many things, and he's
You got a
written.
lot of challenges out there about books being written. I already took the 70s challenge, but I can't take all of them. And Felicia keeps having her finger go up. Oh, that was the okay, Felicia. Go ahead.
I do want to throw my brother in, Walter Smith. Walter is in the State Hall of Fame of Sports for track. He also made it to the Olympics. Even though he got injured, he didn't run in the Olympics, but he was from Sumner and he also made it to the Olympics. A couple of other people that I want to expand a little bit outside of sports. Fernando Gaetan. Fernando Gaetan is a federal judge over all the federal judges in this area. Sumner graduate, yes. I want to mention Andre Hampton. Andre Hampton is considered one of the greatest guitar players nationally. And not only has he played with the current Count Basie band, but he tours the world. I want to throw out Charles Williams. Charles Williams is the most renowned pianist in the area. And he is also part of the American Jazz Museum and teaching at the Jazz Academy there. The Baskins. The Baskins family produced a lot of really great musicians. And Vincent became an international opera singer. And Pam still is considered one of the top pianists in the area, conductor and composers. She's everywhere. She does plays, she does musicals across the entire country. Those are some of the people. I want to mention a couple of people that are doing some other things. For instance, Stephen Penn has now put out at least 3 books. And his latest book that he's finishing up is actually on Leon Brady. Thought I'll bring that one up. Karen Wilson graduated in 1970. And she is an author who writes a lot of local history in the Kansas City area. Kevin Mitchell, who is a professor at KU, he has written a book on the Negro baseball leagues. Another family that was a pretty large family was the Lewis family. And that was Vernon, Sherry, Russell, several of them. All of them have either become, one is a doctor, one's a lawyer, one is an architect. And I just want to put those in there because we have so many outstanding people that have come through Sumner. And not only did they just do for themselves, they made sure that they shared their gifts with others to help them along, especially young people. And most of these people we're talking about are still doing those types of things. Ronald Harlan, he has a huge technology industry, and he started with IBM. Henry Taylor has one of the largest car franchises in the country, and he is in Las Vegas. Thought I would mention a couple of them.
You just mentioned Vernon Lewis, and oddly enough, I came across his name today in an obituary, and he was funeralized on Tuesday, the 22nd. He was a dear, dear person that I used to walk past every day. He would always walk to the courthouse from his office, and I often saw him on that trail. So we want to remember Vernon Lewis, and I think he's class of 65 that recently passed away. Since you brought the large family and the doctor and the lawyer, Vern was a lawyer. Okay, Mr. Owens, it's your time to start talking about Yates and who.
Since this
Go
is
ahead.
Black History Month, and the theme of Black History Month for 2022 is health and wellness. So if you would allow me to talk a little bit about a person in the medical field.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they graduated from Sumner. So go right
Oh,
ahead.
Frederick Sumner.
Okay, go
As,
right ahead.
as we stated at the last meeting, in 2017, or maybe 2019, Marjorie Cates, Sumner class of 1948. She was honored by KU Med Center. They changed their uh, motto in the medical school out there. And now it's the Marjorie Kate Society. It was a Wall Society and had been for years. And so now she is being honored because she was the first Black female to finish 4 years at KU Med School. Quite an honor. The person, they would only allow Black females to go 2 years. The person who went 2 years there uh, was also a Sumner graduate by the name of uh, uh, Miss uh, hmm,
Geraldine Mowbray.
Geraldine Mowbray. Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
both undergraduates, and she went on to Howard University and completed and became an outstanding physician. We have here at Tuskegee Institute, and now keep in mind, it wasn't until the modern day civil rights movement that African Americans who had achieved could work in places. So they wound up at HBCUs, and many HBCUs across this country are filled with people from Sumner High School. Tuskegee Institute is still considered one of the best schools of veterinary medicine. About 10 years ago, it was considered the fifth best school of veterinary medicine in America. The School of Veterinary Medicine is named the William Bowie School of Veterinary Medicine after two Sumner graduates. If you'd allow me, just read a little bit about Theodore Williams. Uh, he attended Sumner High School, and he went to received his doctor of veterinary medicine from K State in 1935, his master's from Howard University in 1946. He uh, went to wound up at uh, Tuskegee and did some outstanding things there. And he became the first and only African American president of the American Association of Veterinary Medicine. He became the president now. The other William Bowie worked from Sumner in 1942, and he also did some outstanding work, and that's why it's considered one of the best schools. And they recruited two Sumner graduates, and I think I stated this last time. I used to wonder how Bernard Watson, you all probably know Dorothy McField, that's her brother, and Charles Ross himself, who achieved a lot, became head of the pharmacology department at Syracuse University. There's a lot of stuff in the alumni room on him. Those two men recruited them right out of KU to come to Tuskegee. Uh, just going down Michael Fogg, and he was in probably in the late 60s or 70s. I'm sure there are people on the call remember Dr. Fogg. Let me just read a little bit about him. Uh, he is and this is about 8 years old. He's the chief of Advocate Medical Group of Advocate Healthcare, one of the largest integrated healthcare networks in the U.S. He graduated from Yale University with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology and cellular ultrastructure and earned his medical degree from Harvard Medical School. He completed his internship and residency in internal medicine at Northwestern University Medical Center, Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, and his postdoctorate fellowship in allergy and immunology at the University of Pennsylvania. He is considered probably the top immunologist in America today. He may have retired now. That's another position. Uh, another, we may talk those 1962 had three medical doctors, and all played basketball. Bertram Brothers Jr., Herman Watson, and Dr. A.C. Favors. Uh, Dr. Watson practiced with his uncle, Arthur Brady. Now, also was a large family,
Also,
who
yes,
was a doctor in Kansas City, Missouri.
yes.
Uh, we have, and this person is not a Sumner graduate, but she went to Northeast and was at the year they closed. That's Gina Pitts, who not only is an MD, but also was a uh, uh, Phi Beta Kappa, and also received uh, a, a fellowship to the college in England. We have a Melvin Jenkins who graduated from Harvard Medical School, and he became the first African American to be on the board of directors for the American Pediatric Society. Uh, Harold Thatcher, Thatcher Funeral Home. He studied under Theodore Lawless, who's considered one of the best dermatologists in America in his history. Harold Thatcher worked with him. He became also very famous. We have Mr. Mobley's brother, Lord Mobley, who was a veterinary medicine. Theodore Sims, Katie Sims. Some of you may remember Katie, who also was a veterinary medicine. Uh, William Tom Jones. Everybody remember Tom Jones, uh, doctor who passed here recently. Evelyn Burton, who's a dentist. Onita Taylor, who's a medical doctor. Howard Howard Dodd, a dentist. Romley Howard, also at Howard. Uh, Marvin McIntosh, who's a medical doctor. These are just a few, also undergraduates. And since we are in this field now, where we're honoring this year wellness, we just wanted to point out just a few of the medical doctors. All of these persons, that's a real story, and we have reams of information on each one of those individuals.
That was rich. That was definitely rich. Some of the names I had heard of, some of the names I hadn't heard of, but Melvin Jenkins, certainly Arthur Brady, Herman Watson, Bertram Carruthers Jr., Adolphus, make sure I say Favors, all of those people that you named have contributed to our society in the medical field. And for those, Dr. Favors likes to follow us. He likes to be a part of us. So there may be an opportunity for him to be here. Now, I do have a comment. Alan Sims was from a very large family. He has an endowment in his name at KU on the Supreme State of Texas. And he was city manager at Cedar Hill, Texas. And they named the town's recreation center after Alan Sims. And the Sims family is Irvin and all of the other. And this came from Carl Berry. Hi, Carl Berry.
Hi,
Hello.
Carl.
I got to stop and take a personal moment here. Hi, Carl. Good to
Hey,
see
Carl.
you on. Oh, my goodness. And here's Andrea Smith saying Walter Smith is in the Hall of Fame at Pittsburgh, Kansas State College in track and field. I'm hoping that Daryl Hobson played and lettered at Iowa State University football for 4 years, and that was Linda Fisher Hobson. And so the history moments keep coming in. Let them keep coming. We like it. Linda Fisher Hobson, Mike Hobson. Okay, that was Mike that said it, not Linda. He's under her name. Okay, Mike, I'm sorry. And thank you. Thank you for that moment. Andrea Smith, Preston Holmes. We have not gotten to that section of our time, but movie producer of numerous Black movies and TV shows also.
Right.
And so, and then, we have such a rich, vast contribution into America and abroad. And they all came out of Sumner High School. And that's kind of why we wanted to do this. We wanted to get that information out that Sumner High School did some tremendous things that caused some even greater things to happen. How about that? I talked to Felicia and Chester last night, and they looked at me like I was crazy. But Northeast Junior High School motto was "Be the best."
That's right.
And it funneled through to Sumner High School. And let's do some hodgepodge kinds of things for a second before we go into the arts. Help me now. Help me remember, Chester, because you're going to tell me stuff that I don't remember because I didn't know it. So, how many mascots has Sumner had?
You mean how different? Oh, well, that's a good question. Want somebody else trying to answer that?
Well, we don't know that, but it's more than just what we know it to be. Felicia not going to tell you the Spartans.
Well, it was first they were called the Cyclones. Then went to the Jayhawkers, and then to Spartans.
Okay. That's what I needed to know. So we had some history there that we didn't know. Okay, and now so we determined that the mottos were done by each class. So we didn't come up with a motto, but what were the Sumner colors? Now I know my drill team uniform was gold and black.
Black and burnt orange.
Black and burnt orange. Halloween remind you of something? All right. But we were proud. And just in case you don't know, there are a couple of things. The Chester C. Owens Jr. Alumni Room is at Sumner Academy Arts and Science. And if you haven't had an opportunity to go into the alumni room where Granville O'Neill is the curator, you need to spend some time there. It is definitely a surreal opportunity. It's just surreal to be in that room, and it's small, but all of the richness, all of the greatness that is found in that room. High school graduation pictures, the ones where we're squinting because they took it when the sun was facing us. And I look just like my mother in her picture. It's really very funny. It's very, 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 very uncanny, in fact. So one more Sumner thought. Sumner, has it always been, the building, not the academy building. I'm talking about Sumner High School building. Has it always been at 8th and Oakland? I'm just asking for a friend. And see, Chester's gone right now. So, Felicia, that's your question.
Has it always been what?
At 8th and Oakland.
No. I don't remember the exact address, but my mother told me no, it was not originally. It was further into the community. And
absolutely. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop you. Wasn't further into the community. It was around the corner at Douglas grade school.
Yeah, it was Douglas before they redid that. And see, my mother also went to Stowe and Keeling.
My dad went to Keeling and Stowe, and Miss Crump was the principal of Keeling when he was in school. And she was still the principal when I came along. And my daddy was
when I was there too.
40 years older than me. And Miss Crump was the principal at least 40 of those years.
She was the principal when I was there.
She was the principal. Yes. My daddy says she spanked. So Beverly Moore says, does Chester have more information on the Spears and McLean and Dwight families?
Yes, I do. Matter of fact, I talk to Arthur probably every 3 months. Also, very accomplished person, Dr. Arthur Spears. I have stuff. He spoke 6 languages. He was head of the anthropology department at NYU for a period of time. Uh, his brother, there were 4 Spears brothers. His brother was a musician, the oldest brother, by the name of Mac. Became a musician a graduate from KU. He is known in Spain what Charlie Parker is to America. And very few people know that I have his album here. Very accomplished family. Uh, one of his other brothers, uh, John, who's part of a trio at KU, along with Elaine Brown Owens, Nathan Davis. And they at KU, that's why they made their way through KU. Nathan Davis, many people graduated from Sumner in, I think, 1955, 54, 55. Went to KU, went overseas, and became a professor at Rutgers, head of the music department. He's in the Hall of Fame, International Hall of Fame over in Kansas City, Missouri, graduate of Sumner. Let me digress just a little bit.
Okay.
You spoke of the Sumner Alumni Room. If you are not in the Sumner Alumni Room, it's your fault. Now, what I say that? I borrowed this book I always get permission from Granville. This is called Fruits Yielded. The only way we can keep up with Sumner, I cut obituaries out of paper and put in here. We did the Sumner story. We sent out to said, people, if you want to be in the alumni room, write 1 page and we'll put it in sheets and put it in this book. The classic example, like Alan Sims, Carl, I talked to Carl earlier today. Alan Sims was in town and he was telling me about, what he's done. He was assistant city manager at Overland Park.
Yes, he
And
was.
he should have been the city manager, so he went on down there. Alan was in town. And I said, Alan, do you have any newspaper articles or anything? And he sent them back. We put them, he's in here. So if you want to be in the alumni room, write 1 page now. And we'll put it in a plastic sheet and you'll be in the alumni room. So I hear people say, well, why I'm not in there? You're not in there because you choose not to be. So I'm making a challenge to you. If you want to be in the alumni room, and you should write about yourself and be a part of that. So if you're on the call now, Dr. AC, I hope you're on the call. Write 1 page and we'll put it in the book.
Okay, so Dignified Digital, as a Sumner Academy graduate, I sit in awe every time I hear about Sumner High. I'm always learning something new. Thank you, Spartans, for always willing to share your knowledge and experience. And that's from Miss Kamisha. We thank you again. I was going to ask how to send that 1 sheet typewritten story about myself, but I was going to put it in the chat, but I'm not able to type in the chat and talk too. So I'm going to ask you that I asked you before. I hope you have pencil and paper out. So you can send your dues that the president talked about and your 1 sheet typewritten story to
Thank you.
Sumner High School Alumni Association of Kansas City, Kansas. So that just cuts down to SHSAA. SHSAA. And Post Office Box 17-2013. Post Office Box 17-2013. Kansas City, Kansas 66117. Again, 66117. $25 a year dues and your 1 page written. Thank you. 1 page written bio about yourself. Do that so that we can add you to the history of Sumner High School. What a joy this has been. And so, if there are any questions, Carol Pitchland has that. What necessitated the change of the mascots? That has to be your question.
Well,
Ooh.
first, when the Cyclones, this conflicted with Bishop Ward High School. They're known as the Cyclones. So they discontinued that. And then they named it the Jayhawkers. And that conflicted with KU. So they discontinued that and they became the Spartans.
And we didn't conflict with anybody that was orange and black with Spartans. We were one of a kind. We remain one of a kind. We do. Belinda Fisher Hobbs. Oh, Michael. There is a picture inside post office postmaster's boardroom of the original Sumner. And had we not had it's a Civic Center post office at 6 in Nebraska. Thank you for letting us know that. The original Sumner High School is in the post office at 6 in Nebraska in Kansas City, Kansas. We're kind of winding down for our conversation. Pay your 2 years dues today. Pay for 2 years. He just said $50. And send that right on into Post Office Box 17 2013. Somebody's right on the ball. It's right there for you to write down. Thank you so much. Any other questions that comes to mind? I do want to just, you mentioned Preston Holmes, but we also have Stephen McKinley Henderson. And every time I see him on Law and Order as the judge, I get so tickled. You know, I for so long I didn't know who he was, but then I found out that he was from Kansas City, Kansas. He was from Sumner High School, and I believe the class. Oh, if I say the wrong one, I'm gonna get choked. So I think it's 67. And please don't get me if I'm wrong. But oh my gosh, every time I look at Law and Order now, and he's the judge, and he's been there many a time, I'm like proud to see him. And Andrea wants me to say again, Preston Holmes, movie producer of numerous Black movies and TV shows. Andrea, I got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And let's see. I think we got all of our topics covered.
Well, we didn't do law.
We sure didn't. Come on with it. Let's
Oh,
do
I
it.
just said the only one I mentioned first was Fernando Gallatin.
You did say Fernando. You
Yes,
did.
the federal judge, and he's over all the federal judges.
Okay. I was asked approximately 5 years ago by a person who's now a public official, said, Chester, were there ever any Black lawyers in Kansas City, Kansas? He said, I only knew one. That was Cardell Lee Meeks Jr. And the only reason I knew him was that he came down to KU to speak to the Alphas. He was an Alpha. And so it really jumped out at me, but I often say, how would they know? And that's why what you're doing is so important. Pass it on to your children. There's no way people can know unless you pass it on. And when you look at the number of lawyers that we had, we spoke of John McLendon. Now, when I give these names, I have information about all of them. So I'm just going to give the names of many of them. John McLendon had a brother named Arthur McLendon. And they were also active members of the Boy Scout troop at First Emily Church. Of course, we all know Elmer Jackson Jr., Delano Lewis, who is an international figure. He's not only a lawyer, but he's everything. Ambassador, head of PBS, business person, and a very accomplished lawyer. Fernando Gallatin, which Felicia has already talked about, is the youngest chief federal judge ever in the state of Missouri. Cordell Mix Jr. and Sr. Robert Waters, the school of Sumner Institute at Miami University is named the Robert Waters James Weldon Johnson Summer Institute of Law. Willard Wallace, who Elmer Jackson, when he went to Detroit, he brought a lot of people with him. Willard was one of them. He became one of the attorneys for General Motors in Detroit. The same way with Dr. McIntosh, became also a doctor for General Motors in Detroit. Elmer did an amazing job. Elmer the third, Hartzell White, who was the first member of a band at K-State. Don Gayton, Sumner graduate of 1949, didn't practice here. Was a good friend, went to San Francisco, very successful attorney. A.B. Howard, who went to Howard Law School. He became the first appointed municipal judge in Kansas City, Kansas. He went to Howard on a track scholarship. I knew Mr. Howard lived right across the street from us. I didn't even know he ran track. Wayman Favors, Charles Dixon, 1949. When you think about the times when some of these people graduate, like Charles Dixon, went to college, had no money. Charles went to Fisk with no money. The same way one of your relatives, Roger Askew, you ought to hear the story of that tell about Roger went to Fisk, graduated from Southern High School, had $60, and later became, I guess, one of the top officials at Fisk University, and he's related to, isn't he, Jerry? Roger Askew. Okay.
Yes, he was. Yes, absolutely. A
Dar-
great
Darcy
historian.
Darcy Evans, who was the attorney for the fellow who found the people of Watergate. His brother, Ben. Darcy became one of the most successful attorneys in Washington, D.C. Reginald McCamey, which we heard from the last meeting. William Towers was probably the person most responsible for the new Sumner High School. Graduated from Sumner, became the second African-American legislator for Wyandotte County. He pushed to have a new school built. If you go up to Sumner and see the opening ceremony, he was very active in that. But more importantly, the main speaker at the dedication of the new building was Dr. Sherman C. Scruggs, who graduated from Sumner in the early teens, was drafted in World War I, went to France, and won the medal that's the equivalent of Congressional Medal of Honor, because they would not allow, the black troops had to work with the French troops. The white soldiers wouldn't work with them. But he was the main speaker at the graduation exercise at Sumner High School. That's in the alumni room. You can read it. Dwight Henderson, some of you know Dwight. Dwight was part of the person who wrote the Sumner story. Jock Barber, Rosie Quinn, Vernon Lewis, we just talked about, who passed, Ira Bradley Jr., and another one of your relatives, Wesley Smith. This is not all of them. This is not all. This is just
no. There's some more that have come in. I can read the chat, sort of, kind of. So Isaac Marks.
An
attorney in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
It's so interesting that you did not say Reginald McCamey, or I must have been.
Yeah. No, I said Reginald McCamey. Last week he was active. He may be on tonight. He was on last session, and he talked about Reggie.
And then
Reggie is very successful. He lives in Panama now.
Okay. Larry Watkins, class of 69, attorney in Washington, D.C. And then someone keeps wanting me to remember dear sweet Vernon Lewis. And John Burris says, excellent information about Sumner High School. Such history and rich legacy to behold. My parents, aunts, uncles, and grandparents attended school there. And so that is just the reason why we're telling the story, because sometimes the story wasn't passed along. For me, my mother wanted me to attend Sumner because there was something about Sumner High School that she wanted me to experience. And I wasn't the only one whose parents wanted them to go to Sumner High School so that they could experience that something special at Sumner High School. And so, yes, Mr. Burris, it is a very, very rich and vast history. We are just tipping the iceberg. We don't even have the full story of what it is. We've got a couple of majors that graduated in 74, Wendell Moore and Preston Cage. They were majors in the Army. You know, there are so many things that we have done as Sumnerites. And so let me read this. This is something very important to say. This is from Dr. Karen Owens, Karen Lenore Owens. Thank you for allowing this space for my father, Chester C. Owens Jr., and others to share their wealth of historical information about Sumner. And so, Karen, we just say thank you for letting us have Chester. How about that? What a gem he is for all of us. And so we thank you and Cynthia for allowing us to keep him right here in Kansas City and do what he does. Thank you both. Gregory King, class of 1966, is a lawyer. Mike Rogers, FDA. And that came from Thomas Gordon. Thank you very much for that. John Burris' sister, Jean, jewelry creator. You know, Chauncey, you said something else. Sumner genius, nuclear physics, Danny Wilson. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I got it. I did say it. So thank you.
Okay.
For bringing that to our attention. It's kind of like when we saw what the movie of the three women who were responsible for NASA getting on board to where they were going, and Hidden Figures. It's this kind of like we're retelling the Hidden Figures story, but it's the Sumner story. And the reason why I say it's hidden, because a lot of us don't know who walked those halls in front of us. We don't know whose sweat and tears were there before we got there. You know, I just kind of whitewashed over Rebecca Bloodworth, but she was to be feared because she expected nothing but excellence. It didn't matter. She was going to bring out the best in each and every one of her students. How do I know? There's this personal story, but she was one awesome individual. We talked about teachers. We've talked about students and families and scientists and doctors and musicians, and you all didn't call one. And Horace Washington name never came across this place, but Horace has his own. He has his own awards, and he was such a wonderful, wonderful musician, and he's gone. But we talked about athletics, we talked about sports, we've talked about all of this that is a part of the Sumner story. Now we want to sit back for a minute. Wait a minute, hold on before I say we want to sit back. Chester, is there anything else on your list for tonight? I don't want to not do it. Anything else on your list?
Yeah. Jerry, I tell people when you go into the alumni room, the book I held up called Fruits Yielded. When we set up the alumni room, it was a fantastic committee. And we were trying to decide how we're going to do this. None of us ever had an experience. And Eileen Collins Smith, here again, with the things that she does, with, I don't know exactly what you would call, I call her an architect, an engineer, a designer, and she has a degree. She was on the committee. And we kind of had did her. She came and said, let's just take the room and follow the Sumner story. And that's what you see, fruits yielded. So I would suggest when you go to the alumni room, and very few people do this, take those books out and go through them. If you really spend some time going through the books and reading stuff in the alumni room, you will spend, and grandmother's there 2 days a month. And thank God for Grandmother O'Neill, just done an amazing job. You will be in there for those 4 hours. But take a look at that book. And more importantly, sit in the one sheet and be a part of it, alumni room. Uh, we not talk about educators. There are more PhDs than you can count. We did not specifically talk about the Phi Beta Kappas, and I have to throw out one of the Phi Beta Kappas there, uh, who became one of the best authorities on Shakespeare. If you remember on the call by Scotty P. Davis, they mentioned her,
Right.
Zatella Turner,
Absolutely.
who was a Phi Beta Kappa from KU in 1931. Can you imagine being a Phi Beta Kappa from 1931? There are many Phi Beta Kappas which we haven't talked about. And I might also say that everybody on this Zoom call tonight has a story to tell. Okay, I see my niece. You want to read that?
My dad, William Bill Owens, Uncle Chester's brother, was a Sumner graduate and was the first African American to hold an executive position at Marion Laboratories in Kansas City, Missouri in 1979. Thank you, Stacy, for sharing that. Uh, as you can see, Uncle Chester is not on the bragging tonight, but yes, thank you for that information. We also have something from Uncle from Virginia Kirkwood, who says Carmel Jones was a famous musician who was intentionally known Sumner class. Oh, internationally known. I apologize. Sumner class of 1955. I used to tease that class because I said you were here the day I was born. So Andrea Smith said Jan Hicks, 69, aeronautical engineer. Marvin S. Robinson says, great presentation. Thanks for the invite. Have appreciated and loved every minute of the evening's moments in Blackness. And here we didn't talk about Blacks in government. We did not talk about Blacks in government. We kind of grazed over it, but we had Vertus Robinson, the first commissioner for Wyandotte County. We had Chester Owens, the first councilman for Wyandotte, for Kansas City, Kansas.
In the
We
20th
had
century. In the 20th century.
in
There
the
was some in the
20th
19th
century,
century.
before the
And
21st and 20th century. Yes, sir. Yes,
Jerry,
sir. That's
I don't want to talk over you, and I don't want my daughters to fuss at me when I say this. But Marvin, Vertus, his mother, was
right.
the first female appointed a state representative for the state of Kansas, but she didn't chose not to serve and was appointed to county commissioner. So very
Okay.
historical.
Very
Vertus was quite a
historical.
person. And Vita
So we
Mundy, who's
want
on this call, I hope, the first African American female to serve in city government. That's Vita Mundy.
Vita Mundy,
Peter
also
Monday.
Joanne Collins in Kansas City, Missouri.
That's right.
Joanne Collins in Kansas, Missouri, right?
Joanne Collins in Kansas City, Missouri. And here it is. I am at 8:50 and I'm getting my advertisements in. Be a part. Join the Sumner High School Alumni Association at SHSAA PO Box 17-2013, Kansas City, Kansas 66117. $25 annually, but the president said you can give up that extra $25 and be a 2-year member. And so we're saying $50. Thank you so much. I just love the comments that are coming in, the participation. Remember, there is a memory here. This is being filmed and it's also going to be up to review. And so, when you talk to that person who says, "Oh, I meant to go, but I meant to see it and I forgot," they can just go back to Dignified Television, pull up chat with, it still says Chester and Granville, but I will add Felicia's name because she's been a wonderful, wonderful person to have to talk with us this evening. And so, oh my goodness gracious, somebody says Donald Ray Hopkins was Phi Beta Kappa in 1958. I'm not going to say who that person is, but yes, it is Donald Ray Hopkins, Phi Beta Kappa. How about that? 1958. We're still just, we're closing up, we're still just throwing out history so that you can grasp the greatness. Someone, Michael Hobson said, this is only 2% of the history of Sumner in 2022. Only 2%. We only got to 2% today. So we got a long ways to go to tell the story of Sumner. We have lots of things that we do. This is just one of them. I am winding down for a reason. The Sumner National Convention is slated for October the 27th through the 29th or October 30th this year. And it will be at the Embassy Suites Hotel on the plaza. Information will be coming out in March regarding it. If you want to be a part of the association, if you feel that we are coming together to tell our story, join us at the National Convention. We meet quarterly. We meet the 5th Saturday of when it comes along. So look for an invite for that. If we don't have your email address, make sure that you leave it in the chat and we get that information. It is just an opportunity extraordinaire to sit and talk with Chester Owens. And if you don't ever if you ever see him out, stop him and get the 10-minute story of Sumner. You'll be amazed at what you'll hear. There is nothing like a Chester Owens. There is nothing. Can legacies of Sumner graduates join the Alumni Association? Yes, they're called associate members, and it is the same cost, the same address. We would be more than happy to accept and have you join us as a part of the association. You are welcome to join in. And Mrs. Joanne Collins also was appointed Undersecretary of the U.S. Energy Department in D.C. Thank you so much, Marvin, for giving us that information. I'm trying to keep up with everything I'm seeing. I'm not going to say that, Karen. I read it, but thank you so much. We just give God the glory for all the great things he allows us to do. We couldn't do it without him. Now, behind this presentation is our engineer for the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be remiss in not thanking him. He is putting the dates down for the convention, so make sure you get those. We haven't decided the cost, but it will be considerably less than before. But let me say thank you to Ronald Hopkins, who has been our engineer for this evening's production. If you knew what happened to us today at around 12 noon when our Wi-Fi went away and we couldn't do this production the way we had planned. So I've been going off the cuff because I left half my notes at home. But I just thanked him for being able to overcome and make it happen. So thank you, Mr. Hopkins. You just a wonderful little guy. I think that's that honeydew extraordinaire I heard about from some other person. So thank you. Thank you. That he says he's taking a bow. Um, Guys, we got to do it again. Remember that next month on March 25th with Chester Owens and probably Felicia, we're going to be highlighting the women who have graduated from Sumner High School. Now, if you happen to be one of those women and you want your story told, make sure that it gets to me. You can always send something. So Stacy has said Dolores Owens Haywood, Sumner class of 60, was president of the NEAF AFTA Los Angeles chapter. Had to mention one of the other family's members too. I'm mad at you, Stacy. When you're great, you're just great. When you do good, you just do good. And our story started at Sumner High School. It started. It might have started at Northeast. It might have started at Keeley and Stowe or Grant or Douglas or Hawthorne. But when we got to Sumner, we were molded into something that was nothing but short of great. And I don't think you'll get an argument out of anyone. I'm going to let you all have last words.
All my life, I will be a Sumner Spartan.
All my life, I want to be a Spartan. Okay.
Work, Spartans, work, work.
Okay, Mr.
And I'd like to thank you very much. Geraldine, thank you. And Mr. Owens, it's always great seeing you again. Always.
Thank you.
And the funny thing is, she calls me Geraldine. So I just want to make sure that you all know that that's my pseudo, and it's all okay. Yes. Mr. Owens, you have any comments?
Just thank you, Jerry Ann, and thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Jerry, not just for this, for all the great things that you do to help keep Sumner alive. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Ronald. And thank you, Felicia, for filling in. And not only filling, you did just an excellent
Absolutely.
job. Thank you.
Okay, so I got a note in there. Dunbar, I forgot Dunbar, North and South. Oops, so very sorry. Those are the feed-ins to Sumner High School, and never could I forget those. Can I say Catherine Elizabeth Cade Pruitt? We are accepting additional donations for scholarships for high school students at this time. Please consider giving. And we do support high school students in the Kansas City, Kansas area. We have in the past supported 4 at one time with the amount of $1,000 per student. We lost 2 of the students, and we just upped the amount to $2,000 for the students that we are finishing up this year in a 4-year term. And so we're just asking for any donation that you might want to get. And guess what? You can send it to Post Office 2017-2013, KCK 66117. That came from our president. We thank you. May God bless you, is my prayer. Thank you, Chester Owens. You know I love and adore you. I absolutely do. Felicia, I've always admired you. And so this has just been perfect. And you are getting kudos left and right in the comments. People are saying thank you for a wonderful job. And great job, Felicia. I'm not saying what they say about me. I don't do that. The Honeydew Extraordinaire did something. Thank you for Jerry Ann and the crew. Next month, join us again. We're going to be talking about the women that graduated from Sumner. And that idea came from Chester Owens. So we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We are gone.